I never intended to overhear that night, but sometimes fate pushes you toward truths you'd rather not confront. It was nearly midnight when I returned from the store, clutching a bag with a bottle of cheap wine and a couple of frozen dinners. Those kinds of meals that scream, a marriage is barely hanging on. As soon as I stepped through the door, her voice hit me, low, sharp, and seething with anger. I can't stand being with him, Sarah. I feel caged. He's like a ghost I can't escape. I froze in the doorway, my breath caught in my chest. Her words sliced through me like a blade, cutting deeper than any confrontation could have. I wasn't supposed to hear this, but I did. And in that moment, everything fell into place. It was as if a veil had been lifted, and I finally saw the truth. What we had, what we'd become. A marriage begins like a dream, all passionate promises, late-night whispers, and shared laughter over nothing. But over time, it morphs into something else. Mundane routines, quiet drives, and the slow realization that they turn away from you even in their sleep. Claire and I had met when we were both in our early 20s, wild and full of dreams, just out of reach. Her eyes used to light up whenever she looked at me, as if I were her entire world. I lived for that spark. But as time went on, it began to fade. Maybe it eroded slowly, quietly. She grew distant, and I became predictable. I worked my desk job, came home, and tried to be everything she needed, but it was never enough. Standing there in the dark hallway, hearing her confess she couldn't stand being with me, it felt like my heart was being crushed in a vice. I could have stormed in, demanded answers, begged for some kind of clarity, but I didn't. Instead, I slipped away quietly, grabbed a duffel bag, threw in a few clothes, and walked out without a word, without a confrontation. She wanted freedom, and I gave it to her. I drove to a rundown motel on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where the paint peeled off the walls, and the air smelled faintly of despair. I sat on the lumpy bed, staring at the garish wallpaper, wondering just how long she'd been feeling this way. How long had I been nothing more than a shadow haunting her life? The next morning, my phone lit up with calls, texts, and frantic voicemails. "Where are you? We need to talk. Please come back." It almost made me laugh. The woman who had so desperately needed space, now suddenly frantic at the thought of losing me. But I let her sit with it. I let her taste what it felt like to lose someone who had always been there. 2 days later, she showed up at the motel. When I opened the door, she looked like a wreck, sunken eyes, tangled hair, her voice shaky. "Why did you go?" she whispered, her words barely audible. I let out a hollow laugh. "Do you really need me to spell it out?" She swallowed hard, her eyes searching for something, anything to cling to. "You weren't supposed to hear that." So that was her issue. Not the fact that she'd said it, but that I had overheard it. Something inside me cracked. I stepped aside, allowing her to come in. She stood in the middle of the room, refusing to sit. "Was it true?" I asked her, my voice steady, even though every word felt like it was dragging me under. The silence that followed was a moment too long. That silence spoke louder than any words could. Claire, always quick with her excuses, had nothing this time. She fumbled, grasping at empty air, trying to offer something to keep me tethered, but I was already gone. Not just physically but emotionally. I had checked out the moment her words cut through me. "Please," she finally mumbled, frustrated. "I didn't mean it like that." I shook my head, my voice firm. "You don't say something like that unless it's real." Tears welled in her eyes, and she stammered, "I love you." But I cut her off before she could finish. "I don't need the but. I know how this story ends." She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. But I didn't reach for her. For years, I had been the one aching, wondering if I was enough. Now, it was her turn to face the emptiness of a life without me. I never went back. The divorce was ugly, but my recovery wasn't. Somewhere along the way, I learned the truth. Leaving wasn't the hard part. The real challenge was staying. Staying in a place where I was unwanted, in a love that had turned to ash. Claire tried reaching out a few times after that, hoping to rekindle what had long since died. But I had found something far better: peace.